Welcome back to Talking Shop with Shop Saber. I'm Brandon, back with the gang for another week. Chad, Travis, Kyle. How you doing?
What up?
Doing
Blended.
good.
Yeah, stellar.
Good. Well, we're all back here now.
Now you're back from Hawaii,
Back from Hawaii.
the island life.
Dude, I was ready to be home.
Were you an
It's-
island boy?
No, I was not. It is not for me. Let's put it that way. Not for me. I do not move at the island pace. I'll tell you that much. I am way too, I guess you would call it ADD for that. Like, I have to do something all the time. And I found out that on the island life, you do not have to do something all the time.
Very
And that is
laid back.
completely okay.
Which one were you at?
Maui.
Oh.
Yeah, went to Maui. Found out that everybody there drives really cautious.
Yeah.
I do not like that. You can't put me in a sports car on a windy island road and not expect me to want to race every sports car that pulls up next to me. Like, I'd seriously pulled up next to 3 million Mustangs, Corvettes, you name it. Not one of them raced me. I was like ready to. My wife was really irritated by the end of the weekend, but I was ready. I was ready to race, and nobody.
They
Couldn't even
probably
get it.
just move at a slower pace.
Dude, they just don't care. They don't even look at you. They're just like, yeah, well, I'm going to jam to my music here. It's beautiful weather. No reason to go fast. And I'm like squealing tires to the next light. Did he follow me? Nope, didn't. So,
But
yeah.
you can also make it from one side of the island to the other in like 20 minutes. So
No, that's not true. Actually, it's a really long drive.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah, really long drive.
Doesn't
I'm
look
trying
like
to
it on the
remember
map.
Probably one
Doesn't
of
look like
them.
it on the map. You're right.
Yeah.
I think it was, well, maybe when I went to Kauai, maybe that's the one. I don't know. One of them, you could literally make it around the island in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, this is like, they call it the Road to Hana. And it's like one of the most dangerous drives. It's got like, I don't remember how many curves and how many bridges, but it's like a long, long drive. And like, it's super sketchy. Like, some of the rental car contracts say that you can't take the car over there because it's that sketchy. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But no, it was pretty awesome though. Like I said, I had a blast down there, and I was ready to come home though. I'll put it that way, because I didn't adjust in time, and I woke up every morning at 3 a.m, and I was ready to go to bed by 7 o'clock at night. So
I bet.
yeah, I didn't adjust.
Yep.
Now I'm happy I didn't adjust though, because I made it back here and I lost 5 hours in one flight, and I got home and I was like, man, we lost a whole day traveling trying to get home.
Right.
Just crazy. What about you guys? Anything fun while I was gone?
Just working. Golfing.
Good answer. Good answer. Yeah. Did you do some golfing? The weather was nice here.
Yeah, a little windy one day, but it was nice.
Yeah.
Kind of one of the last weekends probably we're going to get out.
I believe it. Yeah, the weather's starting to kind of turn now.
50 degrees today.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like 70 yesterday. It's 50 today.
Uh,
What about you, Travis?
Tore down a shed, and I did finally start the snowmobile.
Yeah, I got the snowmobile fired up.
Yeah, engine almost flew out of it.
I
so
heard you had a
definitely-
little bit of
yeah.
failure with the motor mount.
Yeah, definitely need some motor mounts.
Oops.
Now I know why belts were shredding last winter.
There we go. Figured it out. Problem solved. Perfect timing to look into it too. Right about the time the winter's about to hit. You had all summer to fix it, but chose now. Right.
Yeah, I was a little lazy, I guess.
you got to have the added urgency.
Yeah. He didn't have any of that. What about you, Kyle? Anything?
Oh boy. Just had a party this weekend.
You had a party?
Had a party, yeah.
Was
Friends
anybody else
moving out
invited to the party?
Colorado.
How about a beer?
A lot of beer.
Lots of
Probably
beer.
too much beer.
I'll just have 4 to 5 beers to stop the shaking, and then I'll go outside.
Well, it's good. I'm glad that you made it back then. That's good.
Yeah.
After a fun party. Yeah, I know last week we talked a little bit about the benefits of CNC cabinetry, or CNC in cabinetry shops. And I feel like that was a pretty educational topic there. And to kind of piggyback off of it, I kind of thought, we got to talking about different shops and people who build, cabinets one way versus another. And that got me thinking about just businesses in general and then people in general. And then I started just kind of snowballing, and it kind of ran down that, that rabbit hole, if you will. And it, I started thinking about like professionals, right? People that are professional versus people who pretend to be professional, right? Like true professional products for professional people versus like pretenders, and basically today's episode, I thought, talking about explaining the differences between professional and pretenders.
Nice.
Yeah. So I thought, kind of jumping right into it, this topic, excites me because it allows us to help people really look at their businesses and understand if they're just pretending or if they're kind of the real deal. Like, I think about CNC, obviously, equipment the same way. Obviously, it's what we do. So kind of everything I do kind of falls into the CNC world once in a while. But, you have your professional grade companies, and then you have a bunch of pretenders out there, right? And you see it more so now than ever because as the economy kind of switches and turns, and now the import products make a strong comeback because, well, it's easy right now to do that. There's a lot of pretenders that still sell machines, right? I mean, they just usually don't have the reputation of performance that a professional truly has, but they're pretending they do. And that's kind of what sets us apart as a company. And so I started to think about that topic a little bit. And I thought, let me just ask a simple question. Like, what do you guys think about, like, individually when you think of professionals versus pretenders? Like, what comes to mind for you guys?
I'd probably say, like you're talking about the importers, they try to make a machine that's going to supposedly do the job. They're not. We're building machines that are quality built, that are designed for the job at hand.
Yeah.
I guess, it's like saying guy's going to buy a CNC router to start a milling shop, doing all steel products. Guys always assume, well, this guy says that he can do steel on his machine. You should be able to do it on yours. Well, they're saying that just so you buy a machine, not that it can truly do it.
Yeah.
You're going to have troubles down the road.
No, that's a good place to start. Obviously, you specifically went to, CNC that maybe, like I said, maybe you think the same way, but, in general, that's a good point though. Pretending is multiple ways of thing. Like a sales guy pretending that things will happen that won't, but it could be a product pretending it can do things. So yeah, there's some stuff there, kind of Chad, what comes to mind for you on that stuff when you think of pretenders versus, professional?
I think if I think about me personally being a professional sales guy,
Yeah.
showing up on time, willing to stay late, completing the task versus showing up right at 8, leaving at 5, and not completing everything that I need to get done in the day and trying to get it done the next day.
I love that. It's actually something that I have in my notes here that I want to talk about a little bit is, talking about people who pretend to do their jobs, and it's not just here, I'm talking about in the world in general. Like you go to certain places and it's like you just notice people who are true professionals in their industry and at their job, and their craft is their, pride. Like they're really good at what they do. And then you have people that they pretend.
up.
Yeah, exactly. They pretend that they're as good as those guys, but they're not doing the work. They're not putting the efforts in. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Are you willing to be the pretender? And are you okay with that? Or are you professional? Because it really does make a difference in your results that you're going to achieve. Kyle, what do you think about, kind of when you get into professionals versus pretenders?
Yeah, geez, I think my mind kind of instantly turns to like the onslaught of all these just companies coming out of the woodworks on Amazon, Alibaba, AliExpress, and they claim they have like these amazing products, these amazing CNC machines, but you buy a machine for maybe like 10K less, you're not going to get customer service, you're not going to get the parts that you may need, and things are going to break very quickly. You see it with a lot of these imports, they just kind of, crap the bed, and then you're left with a machine that just kind of doesn't work at all. That means that you're losing an investment, and it's like, you get scammed essentially. It's a scam.
And that's exactly it. And I love the opportunity to brag about being a professional. Like I love that because I feel like our work speaks for itself. Most of the time, the way we carry ourselves shows our professionalism in everything we do, right? I mean, we really try to be professional through and through. And, like anything, you have bad days, right? I mean, everybody has bad days. We all do. But we have a lot of good ones too, because we set ourselves up and our processes up and our procedures up to fit for consistency. And ultimately, consistency, in my opinion, is what breeds, success. Like that's just my opinion on that. But like trying to be more professional is setting yourself up for that success long term. A lot of companies, as Kyle alluded to, they kind of pop up out of the woodwork. Like you're just like, they weren't, Chad, you made that comment again a couple episodes ago where it's like they weren't here last year. Like these companies that just showed up because it's convenient now, right? They found an opportunity to make money is what they did.
Right.
They don't have a need they're trying to, solve. Like, that's my thing is ShopSaver was built and born around the idea of bringing CNC technology to the fingertips of people that simply just didn't have it, right? Didn't have the ability. We didn't do it by going to, imported companies and buying somebody else's product, sticking our label on it, and then reselling it to somebody else and calling it a ShopSaver. We did it by literally inventing a product, making a product that didn't exist on the market at that time, developing a product to fit a class of machine that needed to be developed. And then magically, obviously when we started, there was like 1 or 2 competitors. Like there was very few machines that competed against us in our area. And now you think of all the machines that popped up around us, right? Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of them try to pretend to be the same company we are. They try to, they try to do that. Oh yeah, us too, right? It's the me too factor. I always say, like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm really good at this and I can do this. Oh yeah, me too. You know, like you're not really selling yourself. You're just copying. You know, you're telling others that you can do the same thing because somebody else showed they could. Like we're really about being on the front of that, being on the cutting edge, right? We want to be the person that really develops that technology or showcases that technology first. I mean, I think through our videos, we do that a lot. You know, hey, look at podcasts. How many CNC companies have a podcast? Right?
I don't think of anybody.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in that cutting edge. Like, we're willing to talk about the things nobody else is willing to talk about. We're willing to do the things that other people are going to, yeah, me too, right? But we actually took the efforts of how do you start a CNC podcast? Well, there's only one way to do it. Figure it out, right? We're going to do it on our own. Like, we've figured it out. We've adapted. We have to come up with different topics every single week. Like, we try to figure this out. Well, it's the same thing throughout our business. Like, we develop new options. We develop new features, new, technology. And I think that's the difference between a true professional and a pretender. A pretender, it's easy to go out and buy something that somebody else has done the work on, right? And slap your name on it. Professional, it's something that you had to create, something you own the design on, something you have to be involved with all the way. You have to take all the negative with the positive.
And some of it is trial and error, right? Because
Yeah.
when you guys first started, we weren't dual ball screw. We didn't
Yeah.
have a stack steel frame. You know,
Exactly.
We were stepper motors on some machines. Like,
Yeah.
stuff has come a long way from where it was 10 years ago.
Correct. And actually, I'm glad you said that because think about what we've learned over 23 plus years now of doing stuff. Like, we know what different things have for a long-term effect. We have 23 years of experience. That's not a joking matter. That's something that's proven. Where somebody who's only been around 9 months, what do they have for proof? Nothing. They have no experience other than what they read on the internet like you do. Like, you're all assuming that it's been done correctly, right? They have no experience long-term. Heck, the warranty hasn't expired on the first machine they ever sold. Think about that, Like, they've never had to support a machine years down the road that warranty's expired on. Like, you're trusting your business with something that new, Like, there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. And, like I said, let's talk about the pretenders. What does that mean in CNC specifically? Well, Travis kind of jumped on that first is, we all talk about this in a CNC sense because really that's who we are and what we do, right? But you really can think about this in your business too. Your competitors, your industry, determine how it carries over in a similar fashion. But pretenders are generally price driven, in my opinion, right? Like, price driven usually is your pretenders. They often sell on being the cheapest. It's sales guys are that's the pretender sales guys, in my opinion. These guys who go and they want you to just quick sale buy. It's based on a price. You don't do a lot of research. Being able to give you a bigger discount is like a selling tactic they use. Like, oh, I can give you a better discount. Why didn't you just give it to me up front? Why did it take me talking about somebody else before you gave me this better discount, right? Like, give me your best price up front. Like, if you're really looking out for my needs, your low price should be your low price, right? There's only one low price.
Exactly.
Eventually, there's that fine line that, like, I always tell everybody, imagine yourself walking on a cliff, right? There's a fine line that you can walk to before you fall, right?
Yeah.
That's your sales price. There's a fine line in the ground there. Like, once you cross it, the company's losing money. Like, so there's a number that you can, as a company, sell something at. That should be your upfront number, right? Like, that to me determines right away if they're a pretender or if they're a professional. Professionals should be selling me a need, right? They should be fitting my budget. They should be fitting everything. And at the end of the day, I might simply not be able to afford that product. I'd rather them be honest with me up front. Like, where are we at? What can we do? And yeah, obviously there's always certain things you can modify in a quote, right? That's different. Like, adjusting a quote to fit a budget later is different than just the same quote, but magically I'm giving you $10,000 additional off. Like, where did that money come from? Like, you better have a really good explanation on that one. Because if it's just because I mentioned somebody else's name, that means you were trying to gouge me for $10,000. Like, that's not cool. But, I start thinking about that, when you look at the pretenders, they often find themselves slashing prices to win deals. You should not have to slash a price if you're the real deal. In my opinion, if you're a professional, you should have a value determined by your reputation, by your product, by the service that comes with it. All the other stuff that comes along with it should warrant your price. Should it not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the real deal, you carry yourself with that confidence or that swagger, right? I mean, because you know what you have and you know that it's proven. It will perform day in and day out, and you have a reputation to fall back on. It's different when a company could say, I've done this for 23 years and my first machine's still running. Versus a company that's like, I've done this for 23 days and this first machine's almost installed.
Well, and still supported on the 23-year-old machine.
Correct. Exactly.
There's a lot of companies that'll cut support after a certain time.
Yeah, there is a lot of companies. Heck, there's a lot of companies that cut support after a year. Like, you sometimes have to remember a dog barks because they want to scare others. Right? It's a good way to remember that in sales. Like, a professional company lets their work speak for themselves. Thus, the bark is less required, right? But, when they do, it gets people's attention, right? When a company, a larger, more professional company barks, you know that they mean business, right?
Yep.
But when you got these smaller pop-up companies that are just making all this noise, trying to just cloud the water, they're barking because they're trying to create a distraction, right? They want you to seem to believe that they're bigger than they are, right? They're trying to look beyond anything else, right? Look at how big we are. We're everywhere, but it's like, do the numbers. How many machines or how many products have they really sold? Some people are listening right now and they're thinking about their competitors. Like, you might be the cabinet guy in town that's been doing it forever, but this guy popped up out of nowhere. And it's like, sometimes they make all this commotion and make you feel like you're doing something wrong. But at the end of the day, like, how many cabinets have you installed versus them? Is there things you can learn? Absolutely. We all can learn. But there's certain times that, again, a dog barks to create that distraction, to make themselves look bigger, right?
Yep.
To scare you. And so sometimes it's people, have to think about that. And people recognize what it takes to be great. And people often want to follow those who lead the pack. The guy leading the pack isn't always the one making all the noise, right? He's just doing the work every day in, day out, doing the right things. And oftentimes, professional companies are innovating. They're forward thinking because they're not worried about what others are doing, but they're more worried about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So you have to start thinking about that. Like, companies that are trying to catch up all the time. I mean, go back to another company again. A company that popped up this year that you're competing against. They don't have your 20 years of experience doing what you're doing. If you make signs or if you make, fabricating brackets or whatever you're doing, like, your 20 years of experience can't be made up in 1 year. It just can't. No matter what they do, they can't take all your experience of 20 years. Your customers should know that. They should see that. They should see the benefits of working with a company who knows what they're doing. You shouldn't be the same price as a company that just popped up. Really? I mean, when new products come to market, what's the best way to launch a product?
Be the cheapest.
Be the cheapest.
Mm-hmm.
And their hope is that they're just going to drive the prices down to compete against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
They'll go to business.
Yeah, they go to business because they don't have a lot of overhead there, right? They didn't save enough money to protect themselves, and something big happens, and suddenly they're in a bad situation, and now a year or two later they can't survive something happening, and you end up with a product that has no support. Or worse, they drive their prices up, right? They start off with this low price, right? Now get in now, entry level, right? And then their prices are so incredibly high later on that you can't afford to keep their product. Because they got you in, now that they nickel and dime you on everything else. You have to buy the upgrade this, and they upgraded that, or this is going to cost you, support's going to cost you, this is going to cost. And by the time you're done, the product's the same price as what it would have cost for something that's been around 20 years. The only difference is you could have financed it up front. Now you have to pay it out of your pocket.
Right.
So you have to start thinking about that. To be a professional, you have to look at how you set up your company. If you control the process, if you control the sales, if you control the support, control the service, many times you do this because you want to remove risk, right?
Yep.
And you want to be able to manipulate the outcome the way that best fits your company and your customers. Right? Customers are going to trust you if you can control more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Oftentimes when it comes to pretending, you find that this is more of an appearance than anything, right? They want you to believe they do all of that, but when you dig in, they don't often build their own product, right? They're dependent on somebody else. They oftentimes only perform the basic support. They don't have advanced support. They don't have some of the traveling stuff available. And many times they don't have product knowledge. That's the worst part about it is, like, think about it as a sales guy, you guys. Like, you get on the phone with customers and you answer questions for them. And then you have people that are like, oh, the other company didn't tell me that. Right? I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. How often do you guys run into that kind of stuff?
Almost every phone call.
Like, seriously.
Like vacuum hold down, for instance, in the router world.
Yeah.
These guys are like, okay, I'm going to be holding these parts. They're going to be smaller parts. And the guy's got, one 8-horsepower blower on a table that needs to have something double that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, too, they'll be like, well, can you explain the differences in the vacuums? We'll talk about it, an FPZ versus a Becker versus the F4 versus whatever they're trying to quote them.
Yep.
The guy had absolutely no idea what he was trying to sell this customer.
Yeah.
He was just trying to get the sale done.
Yeah, and that's the problem is a lot of times, customers, they only know what you give them for information.
Exactly.
And so when you start to think about having the information that's at your hand, well, if the sales guy doesn't know it, where are you learning it from? Who's teaching you?
Nobody.
Nobody. You're having to do the research yourself on the internet, and I mean, nothing on the internet's ever true is ever false, right? Everything on the internet's true, right?
Yeah.
No.
You know, at the end of the day, you can trust the internet for only so much. But there's still certain circumstances you have to think about marketing, right? The internet was invented to get information out to people. Then marketing came along, and people started figuring out how to manipulate that information to make it appear like it's not. Originally, when the internet was invented, it was meant to basically be a digital library. It was meant to get all this information out to people instantaneously and be this great wealth of knowledge. And then the pretenders got a hold of it. Right? It was supposed to be professional. You got all this good information, everything out there that was pretty much true, easy to find. And then all the scam sites started popping up and all the scammy stuff. And now we've all the world's reverted because when the internet launched, everybody trusted the internet, right? Oh, it's so much, and then they were getting taken advantage of, and then you started seeing these scams pop up. Now we all assume everybody's scamming everybody until you can prove you're not,
Pretty much.
right? So you have to think about that from a marketing perspective. If the sales guy can't educate you, who's going to educate you?
Same with if their quote doesn't have any information on it.
That's my point. It's a perfect example. When a company's not willing to give you information, it's because they don't want you to know more. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it so it just appears. It's the pretender side of it, right? Yep, us too. We have a spindle, we have a vacuum, and we have a machine that's 4x8. That doesn't tell me what you're actually selling me. I want to know what spindle it is, what's the ratings, what's the brand. Tell me more about it. Tell me what vacuum you're selling me. And my favorite question, why? Why did you select that vacuum pump?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you chose that. Because I'm going to bet you 90% of people can't answer those questions. I mean, go to a car dealership, buy a car. Ask the sales guy why he recommends that vehicle. I bet you'd be surprised at how many sales guys can actually answer that question.
I've never tried that before.
When you walk on the dealership and you say, hey, why do you recommend this one? I always do that. So if I go to a restaurant, I don't know if you guys do this, but do you guys ever go up to the waiter when they walk up to the waiter or waitress and you're picking at the menu and you're like, hey, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
You ever do that?
Yeah. all
I
the
do
time.
that sometimes.
Yeah. And why do you ask them? Kyle, why do you ask the waiter or waitress what they recommend?
And they're probably eating off the menu. They have a good idea of what they like and, what
Their
customers
experience.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, they know it. You trust them for your food there, right? And the other thing is, think about it. That waiter or waitress has to vouch for what you're about to eat in front of them, and they're going to have to come back.
And get a tip.
Right. So they're not going to be like, well, I recommend the tacos. They're fantastic.
Get
And
the
then you get the
chicken
tacos,
tenders.
and they're terrible. Right? They're not going to recommend something that they don't like. They're always going to give you their honest opinion. I do it sometimes where I'm like, hey, I'm down to 2 things on your menu and I can't figure it out. I'm down to the chicken tacos and I'm down to the, chicken sandwich. And just in Hawaii it happened, right? We were down there. I don't remember what restaurant we were at, but I had 2 things kind of picked out. And I'm like, what's your thoughts on this? And the guy flat out was like, here's the deal. That's just an average meal. If you're here on vacation, you can get an average meal at home.
Yeah.
He's like, don't order that here. He goes, I'm just going to be honest with you. Order this. He's like, you will love it. I'm like, really? And he picked it out and it wasn't what I picked out. He's like, those are average meals. He pick this, you'll love it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to try it. Dude, it was awesome. It was fantastic. It was a seafood deal that was, dude, incredible. Something I would have never tried myself. There was no reason for me to pick it out because I was not feeling, I'm going to be honest, I couldn't even read the one word. It had so many letters. I didn't know you could use some of those letters together. But it was awesome. I can't even pronounce it. That's why I'm not saying the name because I'm just going to butcher it. But it was phenomenal. And it was so good. I told my wife to try some. We were, super into it. But you start to think about that and it's you trust the waiter or the waitress to give you your recommendation, but you won't trust the sales guy to give you their recommendation. What machine would you buy? What cabinets would you install in your house? What style sign would you use for this? If you don't ask those questions, you're not going to get a professional answer.
That's a good point.
You shouldn't be telling the sales guy. Let's remember that. If you're telling the sales guy what you need to buy, why do you need the sales guy?
Right.
You know more than him then, right? Or her. I shouldn't be the guy saying to you, I'm going to need this, 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 and this, and this, and this is what we need. I might want that, but I'm always going to ask your opinion. I want a machine with this, 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 and this. What's your thoughts on that? I want you to give me some feedback there. Because if you don't think that's a good idea and you're a professional, you should probably tell me that, right?
Yep.
How many times do you guys critique people when they tell you what they want?
I guess now that you said that, I do it quite a bit.
Yeah.
People ask me, do you recommend anything else, or
Yep.
what would you do different? And
Yeah.
it's a good point.
It's something that the pretenders can't do.
Yep.
If you ask those questions, you're going to get a real answer. And, sometimes you have to start thinking about that the benefits, of being a professional company is that you can build trust. Pretenders can't build that trust. They're always trying to hide from the truth, right? And, you look at CNC machines, oftentimes many are imported, right? They're imported products.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and they hide that aspect of it. They're not like, let me ask you this, okay? They're not proud to say they're built in another country like they are in the U.S. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely.
100%.
Why don't you see other flags on machines and products?
It's not a good selling point.
That's my point. But American-made products generally have an American flag on them, do they not?
Absolutely.
American-made companies always display the American flag. Like, it's always what you do. You're proud of that. It's something to brag about. If made in China is just as good as made in America, then why don't you have a Chinese flag on your machine? Right?
Makes sense.
You don't do it because you know that it's not viewed the same. You know that American made is viewed differently. So you're going to portray that image that we're American made, right? You do everything you can to make me think you're American made, but I don't see an American made statement. I don't see a flag. I don't see the made in the USA on it.
It's not on your website.
It's not on your website. It's not on your quotes. You're not proudly displaying it in printed visual form that can be used in a legal form. Because the reality is, it's illegal for you to tell me you're American made if you're not. It's illegal. So they're not going to do it. If they do it and they're not American made, then they really get themselves in some trouble. But that's the difference, is that you look at the pretenders, they want you to think they're doing everything the same, but they're really not. They're cutting corners somewhere. And, it's the reason you don't see other flags on a lot of products. It's because they're pretending. They're not proud of where it comes from. They pretend it's something else. And, American companies are usually proud to display that flag. We have no doubt when you look at our product if it's American made or not, right? Go to our website. We have an American flag like on the first thing you see on the website. Oftentimes import machines lack the understanding of an application. That's something to think about too. Understanding the industry itself. Like, we have been around 23 plus years. You don't think the industry's changed a lot over 20 plus years, right?
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot.
20 plus years. I mean, we're nowhere near the company we were 20 plus years ago. We're now pretty badass, not gonna lie to you. Right?
Absolutely.
I think we have a pretty cool website too.
We have a pretty awesome website. I love it. I've been out there once or twice. I've explored it. What do you think of it, Kyle?
I love it. Yeah, little plug.
Shopsaber.com. There it is. I like it. But no, I mean, in all honesty, like when you start looking at that, think about a lot of people's. I think Kyle just fell out of his chair. Kyle is laying on the ground. His bucket tipped over.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Do you need my assistance?
No.
That's
Broken
funny.
ankle.
Broken ankle. That's the response to a broken ankle. But yeah, so, when you start thinking about a website, like, does it educate you? How much information is there for your disposal? How much can you learn? Like, what are they doing to try to show you who they are, right? I mean, another thing that Kyle does really well here is he's, displaying who we are and what we do, our morals, our values. They show us pictures of who we are and what we're accomplishing throughout the day. Like, we're trying to be more transparent, right? We want people to have a view inside. It's like standing in the front window and looking in. We want you to be able to window shop. We want you to be able to see who we are. And, oftentimes the import companies can't do that. They're not going to show you their manufacturing plant, right? Because they don't want you to see it. Like, here's our container that it all came in. Like, nobody's going to show you that.
Be an expensive ticket to China.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like, how many companies that don't tell you they're made in another country pretend they're made in the U.S. by having you come to their facility and they show you machines being assembled there, putting the gantries on. And people have said it to us, right? We're like, oh, no, I saw them putting the machine together. Did you see a single welder in the whole building? Did you see a single paint booth? A single
Mill.
anything other than an almost completed machine? Well, no, now that you say that, no. I mean, they were all pretty much done machines. They're just putting the wiring on it. Oh, no, they were just putting the gantry on it. Like, it's the easy stuff. It comes in a container that way.
Yep.
Like, show me a raw frame that's got to be painted or powder coated or whatever they're using. Show me a welder building the frame. Like, I want to see the mill that's milling the frame. Like, if they can't show you that stuff, they're probably not the real deal, right? And, you have to start thinking about things beyond that, that oftentimes not only can they not show you this stuff, but they don't understand some of the stuff, the applications, right? As a cabinet maker, they don't honestly understand what options may or may not benefit your business because they sell one style of machine, right? It's a cookie cutter machine. Which model do you want? It comes with these options. Take it or leave it. Correct?
Every single one of them are like, oh, you need a drill head. You have to have a drill head or it's never going to be able to do cabinets.
Yeah, which, 20 years ago was a thing. Nowadays, the machines are so fast. Like, how often do you guys sell drill heads? Like, honestly.
I'd probably say maybe 5 to 10 a year.
Yeah.
If a guy's like, I'm a full-blown, closet, business, absolutely. But standard cabinet shop, probably not.
Yeah.
I think I'm under 5 probably.
Yeah, I was saying, you don't sell a lot of them. I know that.
Maybe under 3.
Yeah, I was gonna be honest with you. Yeah, it's probably under 5, easy. But you got to think about that. Is that they don't know anything that they haven't bought, essentially, right? They can't tell you why you should buy an option or why you don't need an option because they don't build it. They just buy it a certain way, and the reality is, why something's built or designed a certain way is something you should understand about your product. Like, as a company, listening to this, the guys who are building cabinets and guys who are installing signs and doing this, like, if I asked you why you have the construction method you do, you can probably tell me why you do it that way. Like, we have the same thing with a CNC machine. We have a construction method and why we do stuff a certain way. We can tell you that stuff. Companies that buy products, they can't tell you that. They don't know. They just, I don't know, that's the way they do it. Right?
That was the box that I clicked on the website, and it
Correct.
came that way.
Exactly. Like, I bought 30 of them and got a good deal. Like, that's how they do that. Companies like ShopSaber, everything we do is done for a why, right? We find problems and we solve them through engineering so that we can say that something is improved for performance reasoning. That's why we do things. We don't just do it because, I don't know. Like, that's never an answer here. Like, everything we do is because of a why. Super Z technology, right?
Yep.
High flow vacuum technology.
Dust dock.
Dust dock technology.
Big one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a huge one, right? The dust dock.
Absolutely.
In fact, I had a conversation about that this morning. Like, I had a gentleman that was, questioning some of the things about the dust dock, and we talked a little bit about it and the design behind it, and we've made some, revisions and upgrades over the years of running it. And to the naked eye, it appeared like we had reduced something within the dust dock, but we had actually increased it, but made it more appealing to the eyes. And after taking it apart and showing him it broke down, he could better understand like why we did it a certain way. But it's the difference between a company that knows the why versus a company that just says, I don't know, it's just the way we do it.
Do you want it or not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, no, I spent time digging into it. I sent him pictures of it disassembled so we could see a dust dock that hasn't been assembled yet. Like, that's who we are. We know the why. And, I'm not going to pretend that I always know the why. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have to know the why and everything because we have people that's their jobs.
Yeah, somebody here does.
Yeah, the engineers know it, but I couldn't tell you instantly like why we do it, right? Guys ask me all the time, like, why is this? I'm like, I got to look into that. Like, and some people looked at it like, well, you should know this. Like, your dad started the company. Just because JB started it doesn't mean I know the why. Like, I promise you, we're two different people. Like, BB ain't the same as JB. Like, but I'd look into it. Like, I'll find out the answer. I'll ask the questions. I'm not afraid to, like, ask people. I'll walk into any department of this building and be like, why do you do it that way? I don't care. Like, I don't have any reason to care. Like, I want to understand it. I'm going to learn it. And sometimes I don't like the why, right? Why do we do it that way? Like, we're going to look into that. Like, I don't like it, so I'm going to look into it. And then, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Like, okay, now the why makes sense, right? But sometimes I don't like it and the why doesn't make sense. And then I go to the old JB and I say, why are we doing it this way? And this is my opinion. And he sometimes is like, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. Let me go deal with that. And then the JB walks around, does the JB thing, and we change things.
That's how stuff gets better.
That's how things get improved. Exactly. We question things. But companies that import, do you think they do that?
No.
They don't question a lot.
They don't have a whole lot to question. You just choose what they have to offer.
Do you want the blue paint or the gray paint?
Yeah, right.
Like, seriously.
Like the bulky cover or the slim cover.
Yeah, but I can go on and on about this, but we develop these items because we want better experience for the end user at the end of the day. We want less tech support demands so we can improve the product, right? The less phone calls I have to take, the better off for us anyways, right? So improving the product makes sense up front for us.
Absolutely.
But if you're not going to provide any support worth a damn, at that point, what do you care if they're calling us, right? Companies that don't give you very good support really don't give a crap about the why. You know why? Because they're just not going to answer the phone. They just don't care. That's not good. But yeah, so what does it mean to be professional in your business? Well, let's think about how you present your products, right? Are you showing your customers what you do or showing them what you don't do? Let me ask you that question. often people focus on what they're doing, but they forget to talk about what they're not doing. And I know it sounds weird, but like as a company, when you think about it, it's easy to say like, yeah, we're doing that. We weld all of our machines, right? But what aren't you doing? Well, how do you release the stress from that frame? Are you milling it? Are you, what are you doing? Hitting it with a hammer? Like you have to start thinking about that stuff. And, not importing is something that we're proud of, right? We try to not import as much as we can. Are there things on our machines that are import? Absolutely. Yeah, I don't build my own spindles, right? I get those from Italy. Like, are there certain things, the motors, right? They come from Japan. Like, there's certain things that we do import. Absolutely. Because there's just no way around it. Unless I'm literally going to expand the building, which if I can, I will. And eventually I might build my own spindles and build my own motor if we get to that point. But I can't overnight. That takes time. So until we get to that point, there's certain things I'm going to buy. And that's the stuff that you have to start thinking about, is that we're not cutting expenses and not cutting corners, right? I'm still buying top tier products where I have to. But, you have to tell people what you're not doing. It's the beneficial things that they need to understand, right? What do you do and why do you do it? But also benefit to understand what don't you do and why don't you do it that way, right? I don't buy my frames from an imported company or country because of this reason. And I can tell you, I can lay those things out. Why do I build my own frames? I can also tell you that, right? I can tell you all these stuff, the why that I do and the whys I don't, right? Sales guys can always tell you what they're doing, right? And why they're doing that, right? They can't always tell you what they aren't doing. They can't give you the information behind the scenes. They can only tell you what that little manual in front of them on their desk a lot of times says to say, but they don't have the ability to look into the why not, right? Our sales team is really good about that. Like if they ask you a question, you can provide them the answer on why we don't do something a certain way. Mm-hmm. We have an understanding and an expectation of why we do certain things, right? The machine cuts better if we do it this way, or there's an understanding because there's a engineering force, there's an outside harmonics, there's something, inertia, whatever it might be, that we design machines a certain way. There's a reason why we have stiffeners on our Z-axis, right?
Yep.
We don't want certain harmonics. That's the difference. And, a consultant generally can talk about what and why, but also what not and why not. That's the difference between a sales guy and a consultant. In your business, are you controlling more for your customer's benefit, or are you trying to get by with the minimum for your profit? Like, think about that for a second. Effort put in is effort you get out. And if you spend more time trying to deny or deceive than you actually do trying to prove and accept, then you find yourself in a more pretending category, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Like, for me, I always have looked at it like, if I'm going to deceive you, I might as well spend that energy just actually getting better. There's no reason to deceive you. Like, and that's where I'm at, is as a company, we spend more time. I mean, obviously, look at our facility, right? Our facility's expanding constantly, right? Mm-hmm. Would it have been cheaper for me just to bring machines in overseas and save myself from having to buy a giant mill and all the stuff we've had to do in-house?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It would have been easier. And would it have been acceptable by probably a lot of people? Probably. There's a lot of people that probably still would have bought our product. But it's not the right way to do it. It's not going to give me the quality and performance that we expect. So rather than pretending to be this company, we want to be that company. We put the legwork in, we put the time in, we put the energy in, the hours, the countless hours. I mean, how many hours a day do you see that shop open?
All the time.
I mean, you get here, they're already open and working. Saturdays, they're working. Like you go home a lot of times and somebody's out there still working. Like, we have a crew here that is unmatched, and that's the stuff you don't get from the competition. That's what you don't get from a pretender. They don't put those hours in. They don't have to. They go home at 5 or 3:30 in some cases, right? And they work from their house on their couch, and they wait for the next order of machines to come in a container, and then they unbox them in a warehouse, right? Like, that actually exists. That's an actual business model. But you're paying for that. You're paying the same price a lot of times for that. Versus a company that's open dang near 7 days a week. We have somebody here in most days, and I've got guys that are working almost 20 of 24 hours a day. If I add up the earliest guy that comes in versus the latest guy that stays.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Like, you think about that. I mean, it's crazy that we have people that are here, especially, I know December of last year. I mean, you guys were working till 9 o'clock at night a lot of times here at your desk.
Yep.
12 to 15 hour days was not out of the question.
Yeah. How many sales guys are willing to put in that effort?
Very little. Because
they don't care, right? Do you want it or not? Like you said, Chad, do you want it or not, right? Like, That's some guy's mentality.
Absolutely.
Where you're sitting there like, okay, this is why you need to buy this. I mean, yeah, I can sell you a cheap machine too, right?
This is
We
why
can
you
all
need-
sell cheap machines.
Yep.
Something cheap isn't hard. Cheap's easy. If cheap doesn't sell itself, then you just don't care, right? Cheap's easy to buy. It takes effort to buy something of quality or value. You have to actually think about it. You have to consciously make an effort to sell some or to buy something that is a better quality, right? It's easy to fall for the cheap, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It's the same price as that other one, but it has way more options. No, that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So as you start thinking about, I guess, what's your guys' opinion on pretending versus, obviously professional companies? I mean, as you start looking at the industries you serve and the customers you talk to, what's your opinions on that stuff?
I think that kind of the pretenders are kind of just looking for a way to not spend money. They want to come in here and get a 4x8 that's going to tool change and do everything, but they're not going to spend over a certain amount of money when it's just unrealistic, versus a company that is established, has a workflow, is asking, what do I need? Why do I need it? This is what I want to do. What do I need? Not,
That was really good, Chad.
yeah, so I thought we were at the end of the episode.
No, exactly. And that's a good point though. And we are kind of at the end of the episode, but I wanted to talk about that because I think customers need to hear that. Like sometimes the difference in being a pretender versus being a professional company does mean that you have to be willing to look beyond what is cheap out there and look at what you really need. Because I've seen companies that run into it where like I've talked to cabinet shops and they're like, well, the other guy told me I don't even need a tool changer. Like you aren't serious, are you? Like, can you get by without a tool changer? Absolutely. But a cabinet shop without a tool changer, you're pretending.
Pretending.
Because being a true professional company means being able to have a true product built, start to finish, in a considerable amount of savings, involved in that time. Like I can build a cabinet in 5 minutes because it can, do the dados, it can drill the adjustable shelving holes, and it cuts the cabinet out. So I can just put the thing together.
Versus the other guy, it's going to take him a day.
Yeah. It takes him a day without a machine, or a guy without a tool changer. It's still going to take him close to an hour. Because you think about that, he's got to load the sheet, then he's got to put the bit in, set the zeros. He can't walk away and do anything else. He's got to wait till that bit's done, and then reset the tool, and then reset the height, and go back and do it again, and then do it a third time. Like, you're sitting there babysitting a machine. At that point, you didn't save any time. You're just sitting there becoming a babysitter of a CNC machine. You're pretending. Guys who want to be efficient and want to be able to take on more work and want to accomplish more in less time, they're buying tool changers, letting the machine run while they're putting stuff together.
Yep.
They're doing other things. So, yeah, the machine might not run all day long. The machine might be sitting idle a lot of times while it's waiting on you, but you're never waiting on it. The machine is always ahead of you. So you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to put this cabinet together, and then the one on the machine can be put together, and I'll start another one. And so the first thing people do is they take everything off the machine, and then they go put it together, but they never start the machine again. Like, take the stuff off the machine, load a new sheet, fire it up, let it start running, and then go put that sheet together. Yeah, the machine's going to beat you. It is what it happens. Like, it's faster than you. That's what it should do. You should be waiting on it. It should be waiting on you.
That should be motivation to take on more work and
Correct.
Gives you room for
get
growth.
busier. Yeah.
Yeah, because then that next guy you hire helps you assemble. Right? Now you don't need the skilled laborer in building that cabinet. You need a guy who can put something together.
Catch up to the machine.
Catch up to the machine, exactly. And that's the thing, is like that's why I laugh when companies are like, you got to have the loader and unloader. You got to have it. Like, how big of a company are you? Well, it's me and Jerry over in the other room. You and Jerry can't keep up with the machine without a loader and unloader. What do you think you guys are going to do with that? Like, really? You think about that. Like, the machine is so fast that even with a loader unloader, it's going to just have a stack of material sitting there, stacked that's all cut out now on the unload table, and you can't put them together fast enough.
You talk about the loaders and unloaders too. A lot of times too, obviously I'll ask the question, why do you think you need that? Well, we're doing 20 sheets a day. Some customers are doing double that.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need it. That's just more you're spending up front, more maintenance, more overhead, more stuff that you're going to have to babysit. I guess you might not have to, but from what I understand, there's more sensors and calibrations and.
No, that's a good point, because you are right. And like, there's so much more that people don't think about with loaders and unloaders. Like, one, the space, massive amounts of space you're dedicating to a machine. And if you don't have the volume, 20 sheets isn't enough volume for that. I mean, you need to be doing like 200 sheets. And when you start looking at the maintenance of the machine, it's not only the sensors and all the other stuff that goes into it, but it's vacuum, right? You have to create enough vacuum for dust collection to make a completely clean area, because vacuum hold down only works if it's clean. So that means the table has to be completely clean in order for the vacuum to seal the next time the next sheet goes on. And then you have to hope there's no dust sitting on top of the next sheet coming on the machine. Because as that vacuum clamp grabs it and tries to drag on the machine, if there's dust between the material and the clamp, it's going to have the chance of dropping the sheet. Well, you're supposed to trust the machine to do its job while you're not there. Right? So now it's sitting there running, and one of those things don't happen. And you come back to a disaster. Right? Material that didn't make it all the way on the machine, but the machine's going to keep trying to run, or things that jam or break, and you walked away for 2 hours because you're working on something else, and you came back expecting 2 hours worth of work to be done, and it's still stuck on sheet number 2 that was 6 minutes into the run because it jammed and it shut itself down. Oh, it didn't load correctly. Nothing's there to clear the jam. So now you're sitting there waiting on a machine again with your loader unloader, and now it's going to go take twice as long because you've lost 2 hours of work. You have to fix whatever's going on, and now you're waiting on the machine again. You're standing there watching it.
Absolutely.
Like, to me, it's just, it doesn't save people as much time as they think it does. In some applications, it does. There's some shops that just require it. I get it.
I think if they run just 24 hours a day, every day.
There's one thing that I've seen
Maybe.
about shops that benefit is they run high production hours. Like, they literally don't shut their machines down a lot of times. And the other thing is they a lot of times have a dedicated operator. That job of that person is to sit there and man the CNC cells. And I say cells because it's more than one machine. They have multiple machines running, doing multiple things, and one guy is operating these machines. That way, if an error happens, he sees it instantly, can go fix it. But you're employing a person to stand there and babysit a machine, essentially. That is his job or her job. That stuff does exist. But if you're not that company, you're not going to spend 80 grand on a mill operator or CNC operator to stand there and babysit a machine. It's probably not for you. Like, that's, again, the difference between pretending. Don't pretend to be that company. Don't pretend that you are this company that needs all the stuff that you don't need. You complicate the situation instead of being professional about it and being like, hey, you know what? That's not a good business decision. I'm better to buy a CNC machine without the loader and unloader, and I'll outwork my competition, right? CNC machines are great, but they're also a great way to really get lost. You can buy too cheap of a machine easily, and you can also buy too expensive of a machine. There's cases where you overbuy and you underbuy. You have to find a CNC machine that fits your business, fits your application. And that's where a CNC consultant comes in. That's the difference between a professional and a pretender.
Absolutely.
Sales guys just want to sell you something. They're worried about their pocket. CNC consultants, a lot of times, are more consultative on your situation, your pocket. They want to help solve your problem. They need to understand your problem to solve it. So if they're not asking you questions, or if you're not asking them for their recommendations, you're pretending. Simple as that.
I agree.
One of the good news for ShopSaver is that we have machines that range anywhere from 10 grand to 100 grand. So we usually have a machine that'll fit everyone's budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another advantage that ShopSaver brings to the table. You want to buy an entry-level machine for your garage? We have them. If you need to run a machine, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, we have them. If you run all day long, every day, we have machines for that too. Like, how many companies can you buy the lowest end product they sell and upgrade all the way from like a hobbyist in your garage to a full production shop without ever having to leave a brand?
Not very many.
Yeah, there's not very many. Like, a lot of times you buy and then you change brands, and it's a learning curve and software and all the stuff that goes along with it. With ShopSaver, it's one of the few machines out there that you can buy start to finish and never outgrow it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, again, it's your choice if you want to pretend or if you want to be professional. And I think, for us, we always try to be as professional as possible. And obviously, there's a phrase out there people used to say, fake it till you make it, right?
Yep.
And that statement is the key. That is pretending is what that is. You're faking it. You're pretending that you're accomplishing stuff when you're just trying to make it, right? Like, the reality is like, you have to work harder, right? That's just simply what it comes down to. That doesn't mean you're not faking it in some sort, right? Like, you're faking it, you're under control, and you know what you're doing, right? Sometimes that's just who you are as a person. But I'm saying, like, your processes can't be faked. Your products can't be faked. There's certain things you can fake on the outside, right? But certain things are going to always shine through. And to me, product quality, customer service, and what you actually stand for can't be faked. Those things will always come back and get you. And companies like ShopSaver, been doing this 23 plus years, I don't think you can fake it for 23 years.
That'd be hard to do.
Right? 23 years, our reputation speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
A lot of companies can't claim the same. A lot of companies don't have the same reputation as us, and they've only been around 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And we've been doing it 23 years with one of the best, reputations in the market. It's not done by faking it. That's done by actually putting in the work and actually caring and actually going out and trying to be the best company we can.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have today.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good episode for sure.
Yeah, I was like, hopefully somebody out there just hears it and they realize like there are different levels of products. It's not just in CNC. Obviously, that's what we talk about because that's who we are. But think about everything you do in your life, like everything, friends, family, companies, products, whatever you're looking at. Like, is it a pretender or is it professional? You know, there's different things that can affect different things, and adding CNC technology, today can help you stop pretending and start becoming more, of a professional, or start contending, if you will, right? So stop pretending, start contending. Is that right?
Absolutely.
There we go.
ShopSaber.com. With that, I'm Brandon.
I'm Chad.
I'm Travis.
I'm Kyle.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSaber.